Story number 3, The Neighbor in 4B. There's a brick apartment building on the corner of Maple and 9th Street, one of those places that looks fine in the daylight, but somehow feels wrong at night. It's old, built in the 1920s, the kind of building with creaky floors, dim hallways, and doors that don't quite shut all the way anymore. They say anyone who's ever lived there has heard something strange, but the stories always lead back to one apartment, Unit 4B. When Rachel moved in, she thought she'd found a great deal. Cheap rent, decent view, quiet neighbors. The landlord, Mr. Weaver, barely looked her in the eye when he handed her the keys. He said, "Keep the windows shut at night, and don't answer the knocks after midnight." Rachel laughed. She thought he was joking. Her first few nights were uneventful, the usual city sounds drifting through the thin walls. But on the 4th night, she woke to something off. A sound. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, deliberate, coming from her front door. She checked the clock. 12:14 a.m. Through the peephole, nothing. The hallway was empty. When she opened the door a crack, there was no one there. But the smell of old perfume lingered in the air, heavy and sweet, like roses left to rot. The next morning, she ran into an older woman on the stairwell, a tiny woman in a faded cardigan, carrying groceries. Her name was Miss Lang, and she lived in the building for 40 years. When Rachel mentioned the knocking, Miss Lang stopped cold. The smile faded from her face. "You're in 4B, aren't you?" Rachel nodded. That's where she lived, before the fire. Miss Lang wouldn't say much more. Just that years ago, a woman named Marjorie Vale had lived in the same apartment. She'd been quiet, kept to herself, and one winter night, her apartment caught fire. They said she tried to escape but couldn't find the door. When the firemen got in, they found her body right beside it, her hand pressed against the wood, like she'd been knocking for help. The next night, Rachel tried to shake it off, just an old story meant to scare new tenants. But as she lay in bed, she heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. And this time, a whisper, "Please, let me in." Rachel froze. She pulled the blanket over her head, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Then, silence. When she opened her eyes again, morning light filled the room. The door was shut. But on the inside, 3 faint burn marks, right where the knocking had come from. Days later, she went down to the basement to do laundry. While waiting for the dryer, she noticed a dusty box tucked behind an old water heater, filled with yellowed mail and photographs. One of the pictures caught her eye. A woman standing on the same balcony she had, smiling, wearing the same robe Rachel often wore at night. On the back, written in faded ink, Marjorie Vale, apartment 4B, 1957. As she stared, she swore the woman's eyes seemed to glint, like a reflection from behind the photo paper itself. Then something dropped behind her, a hanger falling from the rack. She turned, and in the reflection of the washer's chrome door, she saw someone standing behind her, a woman, dripping wet, her skin gray and cracked from heat, her hands slowly rising to knock, 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 knock. Rachel left the building the next morning, didn't even pack her things. When the landlord found her keys on the counter, he sighed. Another tenant gone. That night, when he went up to check the apartment, he paused at the door, and from inside he heard it too. Knock, knock, knock. He didn't answer. He never does. Now the apartment sits empty again, but neighbors say they still hear the knocking, and sometimes see a woman's shadow moving past the window. And every new tenant who signs the lease for 4B is told the same warning: keep the windows shut, Don't answer the knocks after midnight.